Okay. Can everybody hear me okay? You guys can hear me okay? No issues in the front here anywhere? You want to turn it down a little bit? Just turn it down just a little bit. Is that a little bit better? How are you guys in the back? Are you getting blasted out back there? Okay. Well, we'll get this meeting started here. First of all, again, I really want to thank you guys for showing up. This is a great response in the crowd. I know there's a lot I'd like to cover tonight. This isn't going to be your traditional Republican meeting. I really have a message that I would like to get out, and having you guys here helps me spread my message and my word and what I would like to accomplish as the chair for the Jefferson County Republican. Again, I would like to thank the sandbagger. Lindsay is kind of running herd over everybody. David's on the grill, so if you ordered any food or whatnot, he's the one that cooked it up. We got the other David, Sheila, and Victoria on the bar. So they are gracious enough to host us here. I would like to give them another round of applause, please. So that being said, as we start the meeting, as we should, we have an American flag right here. If you would be so kind as to stand and remove your hats, and we will recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I will start us out. To the flag of the United States. Thank you. And Maurice has been gracious to give the invocation. So actually, if you would remain standing for the invocation.
Father God, we thank you for this gathering. We thank you for this country. And Lord, we have a lot going on in this country, and we really need your help, Lord. We just ask that you be with us, and guide us, and just help us to make this country as you wanted it to be. And this we ask in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Maurice. Okay, before we go getting into my little spiel here, I'd like to introduce you to my board. The past president for the Jefferson County Republican Party, Jim Rahi. If you could stand, please. My vice chair, Corey Ryder. My secretary, Kristen Case, in the back waving. My treasurer, Rick Brown, could not make it tonight. I don't see him here. And for those of you that do not know me, my name is J.R. Brooks. I'm from Madras, or Culver right now. So I got to tell you, trying to figure out what I wanted to talk about. I knew kind of what I wanted to talk about and how to get this thing started. But I got to tell you, I'm frustrated. I'm really, really frustrated, as probably a lot of you all are frustrated. I'm frustrated with the way things are going in the world today. I'm frustrated with the way things are going in our state today. I'm frustrated with the political system. I am extremely frustrated with the Republican Party right now. I think there's a lot of people that are really frustrated with the Republican Party, people that are true conservatives that are frustrated with the Republican Party. So, what do? I got to tell you, you sit back and you try to strategize and you try to think, okay, how am I going to fix this? How are we going to fix this? Is it up to our city councilors, our mayors, commissioners, state representatives, governors, presidents? Guess what, folks? They're not going to fix it. We the people are the ones that have got to move forward. The time has come for us to stop being apathetic. It's really easy to sit on a couch, open up a laptop, and complain on social media about how bad things are, how our elected officials won't let us do X, Y, or Z, how our rights are being taken away from us. That's easy to do. It is a strategy, but guess what? It's not a very effective strategy. So then you go back to the drawing board and you say, okay, well, that's not working. It's not getting me what I want. So what should I do next? So you got all these groups that are popping up and this, that, and the other that are kind of doing some wonderful things. They're getting out there. They're being activists.
Okay, got it.
They're
Bye.
protesting peacefully. We're not burning things down. Another strategy to use. Is it effective? Somewhat. I mean, it gets us out. It kind of gets our word out and this, that, and the other. But is it as effective as it should be? Probably not. Because unfortunately, we live in a system. Our political system is a two-party system. A two-party system. We can have 5 parties. We can belong to however many parties there is, but in reality, you only have the Republicans and the Democrats that are going to be running things. Talked to a lot of friends that were so frustrated with the Republicans because they weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing. And I'm going to make myself an independent. I'm no longer going to be a Republican. Okay, well, that's another strategy, but guess what? If you want to affect change, you only have 2 choices. You can either be a Democrat or a Republican, because at the end of the day, those 2 parties are the ones that are in control. So if you're going to fight, you got to fight within the system. If you're an independent voter, you don't have a say in what the Republicans do or the Democrats do. If you're a big fan of socialistic type of governance, then you should be joining the Democratic Party, because it doesn't do the Democrats any good to have you as an independent, because they're not valuing what you're not having any influence on that. On the flip side, as independent voters, you have no direction in the Republican Party. So my call to you guys is, one, let's figure out what the best strategy is. What do we want? We want our freedoms back. Our freedoms are slowly being eroded. I don't think any Democrat or Republican can argue the point that our freedoms are being taken away from us. Now, you may have a differing opinion as to why those freedoms should or shouldn't be afforded you, but at the end of the day, the easiest route to getting what conservatives would like to get is being actively involved in the Republican Party. The Republican Party is an easier vehicle for us to join and influence and take back what we need to take back and move that party into the direction that it needs to move. Right now, Oregon is controlled by the Democrats. As a matter of fact, the Republicans are in a super minority. A super minority basically means that we have absolutely just about 0 voice. Talking to some legislators, their biggest complaint is we're getting our butts kicked. We go out there, we do the best job that we can do, but at the end of the day, it's like you've got 6 people against or 12 people against the world. It doesn't matter what you do, you're going to get outvoted. So then you say, okay, so how do we fix that? Where's the strategy? We're a right now society. We have a really fast internet. Hopefully it's working. But we want answers today. We want things fixed today. But guess what? It doesn't work like that. In reality, it does not work like that. So how are we going to get from point A to point B or point Z? We got to start from scratch. Guess what? We got to start a grassroots effort. We have to go out and garner every conservative ideology, every conservative person that is willing to step up into any position available. We got library district, we got water boards, we got school boards. Some of these boards seem completely insignificant to have a conservative on them, but we have to activate, we have to be involved. And my push to you guys is involvement. You got to get involved. One, if you want the Republican Party to go in a certain direction, you have to be a Republican. Okay. The next part, and I'll tell you my background a little bit. I've been a Republican my entire life, but I haven't been involved in the Republican Party except for the last couple of years. I've only been to 3 or 4 meetings before these guys wanted me to share this thing. I really have no clue what I'm supposed to do. And I'm extremely frustrated in my leadership because I'm sitting there struggling and I'm like, what do I do? Give me a mission. I'm a mission guy. You give me a mission and I'll carry out the mission and I'll kill it. But I got no leadership ahead of me telling me, JR, this is what you need to do in your county. We're doing this over here. You did that over there. Boom, 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 boom. I don't have that. So I step back and I look at the overall picture and I say, okay, well, what am I going to do then? Well, I guess I'm just going to figure it out on my own. And what I've come to the conclusion, and whether you agree or you don't agree, is that we need to take back the Republican Party and we need to drive it where we want it driven. Part of doing that, and I'll tell you, educate you on this thing called PCP. It's Precinct Committee People. Is that right, May? Or persons. Precinct committee persons are either elected officials or appointed officials. In Jefferson County, we have 70 slots available for precinct committee persons. Of those 70 positions, 39 are filled, which means I've got 31 positions that are not filled right now. I can appoint, the chair of every county can appoint PCPs. So if you're really frustrated about the direction of the Republican Party, more frustrated than me, the best strategy, in my opinion, would be become a Republican and become a PCP. Become a PCP. Every voting member in your family become a PCP. Because if Jefferson County actually had 70 PCPs, we would be more powerful than some of the bigger counties. Because, and I'm just getting my head wrapped around what in the heck a PCP is supposed to do. And I've gotten a whole bunch of different answers, and a lot of people really don't know. But, you know, yeah, these people are handing out flyers. They're working booths at the fair. They're, you know, riding on floats. They're calling people. They're stopping door to door and this, that, and the other. And when it's explained to me like that, I'm like, that doesn't interest me. I don't want to do that. But somebody told me that the other functions, which I think strategically is brilliant, PCPs help develop the platform for the Republican Party. So in other words, what that means is that if we have a lot of PCPs, if we have all our PCPs filled, we, as Jefferson County, have a lot more say than a lot of other people. And if we're all on the same page moving forward, we become unstoppable. The other thing that a PCP does is they vote to fill vacancies. In the instance of Representative May, help me out on this one, the one that moved on, Bonham Finley. At that point, our PCPs had an opportunity to vote. We didn't have full PCPs at that time, as far as I'm aware, right? Not all the things. So in other words, in my strategy, in my estimation, it makes a lot of sense to me now to start filling these roles. Now, I was partners with a couple of other folks involved in one of the biggest parties Jefferson County has ever seen and probably will ever see. If you guys are not familiar with the solar eclipse that happened about 3 years ago, We were basically in charge of providing a party atmosphere for roughly 75,000 people of the 150 or so thousand people that ended up showing up in the region. I can tell you from experience alone that you can call for volunteers and they'll come running. But if you don't have something for these guys to do, they just fall off. You know what? And I learned that lesson. I learned it really hard during that time period because there was a lot of, trust me, there was a lot of volunteers that were needed to pull that thing off. So what are we going to do in this county? My plan, first of all, I'm gonna back up here. I kind of skipped over a thought. We have an enemy out there, and the enemy is not the Democrats. The Democrats are not our enemy. I have family, friends, acquaintances that are Democrats. These are good people, salt of the earth people. And you know what? When you sit down with these people and open up, civil dialogue, you find yourself having more in common with these people than opposed. Our enemy are those that wish to divide us and to create dissent. So what ultimately ends up happening, and it's a brilliant strategy because it's effective. It's completely effective. Let's pit the poor against the rich, the blacks against the whites, against the Asians, the Muslims against the Jews and the Christians. Let's just sow all of this discontent and keep these guys so busy fighting each other that they won't stop, figure out a good path forward, and they won't engage in that civil dialogue. That's the enemy. That's the true enemy. So, and here I am right now with the leadership of the Republican Party. I don't know where we're at, but I can tell you there's a lot of infighting right now in the state of Oregon with the party. That frustrates me because it's like, okay, one, you're already a super minority, and now you just cut yourself in half because you're fighting amongst each other. Can't we just figure out what the mission is supposed to be? A clearly defined objective and all go towards that? Doesn't that make a lot more sense than just fighting with each other? You're going to hear from Senator Finley. He was gracious, and I asked him to come on the Zoom. The name calling and everything else is designed to basically cut off any kind of communication that there is. I'm trying to stay focused here and make Senator Finley at 7 o'clock. So what's the ultimate plan? What I would like to see, honestly, if you guys are serious enough and frustrated enough, I want you to use your energy to do something effective. We need in Jefferson County 31 PCPs. We need to have 31 more PCPs so that we have a stronger voice and a stronger message to drive the Republican Party. That's one ask. That's my ask to you. My other ask, which should have been before that, if you're an independent, if you're a Green Party, if you're a Kennedy Democrat, yeah, Kristen. According to Kate Zimke, it's district. So as long as you reside within the county, you do not have to be living in that district. You can any district in the county. So it doesn't matter as long as you are a Republican and live in Jefferson County. You can sign up to be a PCP. As a chair, I can make that appointment, and I can take it down to Kate Zimke tomorrow morning and present her with 31 pages of PCPs, and Jefferson County will lead the way. Okay. So my ask before that, if you're not a Republican, if you're an independent, a Green Party, whatever, a Kennedy Democrat, we'll take Kennedy Democrats. If you're that frustrated with the system, this is moving over to the Republican Party is probably going to be a better strategy than staying away from the party and yelling at the party from over here, because that ain't going to do anything. You got to get inside the party and yell at them from here, because that will affect change. So there's two asks: convert to Republican and sign up to be a PCP. So then I get back to SolarFest. Okay, so now I've got a bunch of PCPs and whatnot, and here's what I say about PCPs: if you're not comfortable knocking on doors, making phone calls, making contacts with citizens, being involved in that way, I don't care. We need PCPs. If the only thing you want to do as a PCP is just show up and vote that one time a year or whatever, so that we have more power and say in what we're doing, if that's all you want to do as a PCP, I'll take you. Okay. So the other part, so once we get volunteers and once we get PCPs, I got to do something with you guys, or else you're gonna flee from me. So what I've come to is developing committees, and when I say these things, we collectively as a group, our group that has come together has collected. This isn't all JR. This isn't all my ideas. As a matter of fact, I hope to be the dumbest person in the room because I want to surround myself with brilliant people. That's my mantra, because you know what? If I'm the smartest guy in the room, you guys are in trouble. So what do I do with my PCPs and my volunteers? 3 committees. That's all I'm going to start with right now. There's a bunch of stuff that needs to be done, but let's just start there. The immediate. What do we need to do? If we go back to what I was talking about originally, we need to take back the library district. We need to take back the water district. We need to take back all these things that you think are insignificant. We need to take those back. So we need elected officials, right? Election committee. I would like to have a group of people that could collectively let the rest of the crew know, hey, this is what's coming up. We have an election in May. And I'm learning all this stuff as I go, because like I said, I was a Republican. I wasn't a Republican leader. So as I learned this thing, I mean, this isn't even an off-year election. This is like an off-year. But there's another election in May for, your school boards and stuff like that. So the election committee, we need people to kind of be out there and let the group know, hey, we've got 5 spots on XYZ board that nobody's signed up for. Can we get some good conservatives on those boards? You don't need to be brilliant. You don't need to be anything. You just have to show up with these things. You just show up on these boards and you just make logical, informed, decisions on what it is. It's activation. It's being involved. Obviously, you guys took time out of your day to come here, and I'm imagine it's probably, it's great food, good beer, whatever else, but you've at least taken that step. So take one more step for me. That's all I ask. Elections. Go out, get your neighbors and this, that, and the other. But to have a committee that can kind of let the entire group know, hey, this is what we got going on. This is what we need to push. I need some guy over in water district. I need some guy over in school board, whatever it might be. This person's a good conservative. I think it would be a good fit. Yes. Yes. So what Sue's saying is, in addition to the duties of that committee, basically it's their responsibility to let us know, hey, we got a guy or a gal that's a good conservative. We need to get the word out so that that people understand that these are the people that we would like to seat on these boards. So different functions inside that committee. There's a lot of different things that need to be done, and a lot of different things depending on your skill set. You know, if you're shy, you don't necessarily need to, you know, but if you're great with numbers, or if you're great with, you know, spreadsheets, or you're great with something, whatever your skill set is, give us that skill set, you know, help us out. The second committee I'd like to develop is the legislative committee, and we already got kind of a start on the legislative committee. Legislative or bills. I'm learning that, you know, bills are a moving target. Bills move all over the place. You've got, it goes here, and then it travels here, then it goes over there, then it comes back, then it goes over here, then it goes here. And anywhere in that process, that bill can either die or live. And then it finally gets to the point where it becomes law, right? Learning that stuff. But that's a lot to keep track of. And so you've got all of that moving target, but multiply that times what, 1,000, couple thousand bills, 3,000 bills. You know, some of these bills are so horrible. 4,000 bills, 4,000 bills. That's a lot for 1,000 Jefferson County Republicans to keep track of. But that's the advantage of having a committee. You've got some people that can blast out an email. Oh my gosh, we've got this horrible bill. You need to get a hold of your legislators. Oh wait, that bill went over to committee. You know, here's the committee members. These are the 10 committee members, or whatever. I don't know, Senator Finley, how many committee? Well, whatever. There's usually, you know, a group of committee members that are gonna massage this bill or this, that, or the other. Let's get a hold of these guys and let them know how horrible it is. See, the thing about legislators and representatives is that they represent us, we the people. If we the people just complain to each other on social media, it doesn't do your representative any good, because they are dependent on knowing what we want out of them. They represent us. They don't tell us, well, they're not supposed to tell us what we are going to do. We tell them what we would like to have happen. But if we're not telling them in a civil discourse, then they have no information. They're just going off of their gut. They're doing the best that they can do. They're going forward with their strategy. So that's a legislative committee that I would like to develop. A lot of work to be done in that. Again, different skill sets, different whatever. My last before I get to Senator Finley, and I hope you still stick with me, Senator. My last committee for you guys is an event planning committee. I enjoy events. I enjoy being out with people. I enjoy people, period. Had a heck of a lot of fun running Solar Fest. It was exhaustive. It was weeks and weeks worth of 24-hour days, but it was great. We had a lot of fun. We got to have fun. This is serious business, what we're doing, but we have to have fun with each other. You know, the other part of planning, which subcommittees run off of that, you know, the fundraising part of it, et cetera, et cetera. But having a committee where we can plan events and get together and socialize. I'm kind of running this a little bit differently than before. I want to have my meetings in some place where we can socialize. That's why we're here at the Sandbagger. We're here at the Sandbagger because we can have some food, we can have some drink, we can have some social time with each other. And you know what? People that play well together work well together. And we got a lot of work to do. We, the people, have a lot of work to do. We've got to get off our butts and stop complaining and start activating. So that's the last thing I've got about that. So, no, I didn't say it. Didn't say it. So I've got something for you guys to think about. As you go back to your families and you go back to your friends, pose these questions to them. The same questions that I'm posing to you guys, and the same theory I'm posing to you guys. what's the best course of action to get us from point A to point B? If you agree with me, spread the word. But I'm asking you to, one, join the Republican Party if you're not already there. Two, become a PCP so that Jefferson County can fill every single position and lead the way for this state. Give the state, the rest of the counties, an example to follow. Stop listening to the media, mainstream media, without doing some background follow-up checks. Because you know what? There's a lot of disinformation that goes out there. The disinformation is put out there so that we can divide ourselves and fight amongst each other. So before you just blindly assume that something is said or something is what it is, do some research or go talk to the horse himself. And then I've got committees. Once I got you guys, you know, if you're going to be energized, if you're going to be excited about it, whatnot, I've got some stuff for you to do. So that is my plea to y'all. Like I say, that yeah, the meeting changed about 100 times in the past week or so, trying to figure out how I wanted to do this. But that's my plea to you guys. So there you go. The ball's in your court. At this time, Senator Finley, I would like to welcome you. Thank you, sir, for agreeing to come on to the Zoom. And the floor is yours, sir.
Well, I hope everybody can hear me. I mean, it's a great looking crowd. Thank you so much for the invitation. And thanks for what you're doing. I mean, this is exciting to look out there and see a nice crowd. You know, and I'm not sure how to take your comment, you know, about the horse or something. I don't know whether I'm the horse or I'm the rider, or I'm the saddle, or I'm the feed bag. So, but that's okay. So there's a few things I want to talk about, and I'm going to chime on to your agenda for just a second, and then I'm going to get off and talk legislative stuff. Unity is the thing that we must have. If we Republicans don't have unity, if we're fighting amongst ourselves, we will not survive. Bottom line. I mean, we have to be together. I spoke a week ago or early last Monday to the ORP. I was appointed as a Senate representative, Senate Republican Caucus representative on the ORP. My whole conversation was party unity. We need to stop attacking each other. We need to start working together. And we can do a lot if we work together. If we're divided and fighting each other, we're toast. The ORP at that time passed a resolution to issue a statement that, and it passed unanimously by all the executive board, all the county chairs that were on there, that said, yeah, we are together. We're going to stop fighting each other. We're going to support the elected. We're going to support our party folks and move on. And that's exactly what we can do. And we have to do that. And the next thing about unity is participation. You have to actively participate in the party and actively participate in the legislative process. You know, as Jared said, there are over 4,000 bills that was introduced in this session, and they're still coming. Now, thank goodness, a week ago this coming next Friday, a whole bunch of bills died. Not nearly enough, but a whole bunch of bills died with the first committee, what's it called, the first chamber deadline. If a bill was introduced in a chamber, it must be scheduled for a public hearing and a work session by last Friday. And if it's not, then it's dead. So I'm still trying to find out just how many, but the sheer volume is still that we got left is amazing. So your participation in figuring out what some of those are and contacting us, email, whatever, and say, you know, we have some concerns with this bill. And when that bill comes to a committee and it comes to a floor conversation, sign up to participate. I mean, we had a bill, it was in the House, and it was a banned coyote hunting contest. There were over 300 people signed up to testify in opposition to that bill. Blew up the calendar, blew up the the whole process, and the committee chair was livid. Well, you know what I say to that? Too bad. I mean, that's a big issue for Eastern Oregon. And he needed to listen to it. You know, we had a bill that I'm going to talk about next in Senate Bill 554. That's the gun bill. And before you start throwing stuff at me, I want you to realize you can't throw it at me over the internet. I wish I were there in person to talk to you, because I really do. But there were hundreds of people signed up. Nearly 1,000 people signed up for that bill to provide testimony. Less than 300 was able to get into the queue. And I spoke to that twice on the floor, specific speeches. I spoke at it last Thursday at the hearing. I spoke at it the day before in a remonstrance. I've spoken about that in my town halls. That's just wrong. People need to have their voice heard. And since we're in this virtual environment, it limits that ability. I have heard a Democrat say, and let me back up. I've heard a majority member party say, with the building closed, we can get some of these bills through because we don't have to deal with the public. And if that just blew me away, that is a terrible statement to make, because it is the people's house and we have to be open to the people. So let's back up and go to Senate Bill 554. That was a pretty divisive bill. First of all, let me say it was a damn terrible bill. I am a strong believer in three things. I strongly believe in the Second Amendment. I have way too many gun safes full of guns. I'm an avid hunter and a shooter. I have a CHL. I'm licensed to carry a handgun, and I do more often now than later than before. So why didn't I walk out like some of my colleagues? And here's why. That bill would not die. The bill was sat in the queue, and am I prepared to walk out for 4 months? No. I mean, it's not realistic to think that we can walk out for 4 months. We have business to do. You know, we have to pass a budget. We have to deal with some COVID stuff. We have to do things. So what we decided as a Republican caucus is that we're going to get ourselves on record and point out every deficiency in that bill on the record. So the 6 Republican senators that stayed and spoke on that bill, we held the floor for 4 hours. The 6 of us talked for 4 straight hours on the bill. The first thing we did is we did something called a minority report. So coming out of committee, 2 minority party members can vote to put in a minority report. And in that minority report, it basically says we want to trade out the bill for this other option. And the option that we selected was put $2.6 million into a fund to give to the state police to speed up background checks, to have them in less than 5 minutes. That's what the state police told us it would take to do. So we said, you know, your problem is background checks and who's got guns. Here's a fix. So, and we talked to that for about 45 minutes. Then there was a Senate vote, floor vote. Well, it went down in defeat, but it's on the record. And at that point in time, the bill carrier stood up and made her speech on why she introduced the bill. And she said a couple of things that I took note of. The first thing she said is she introduced the bill because there's no standardization in CHL licenses and you don't know who's got it. And it takes too long to get background checks. Well, I spoke to that at length immediately afterwards. And I said, first of all, here's a fix, $2.6 million to the state police to restore the background check program. That problem is solved. And we can fix, if there is a deficiency in the CHL program, we can fix that in a heartbeat and nobody would care. I personally took my CHL. I was in the classroom for 6 hours and on the range for 3. Shot 100 rounds of ammunition. And it was a very comprehensive training. And I got a comprehensive background and a fingerprint option. We pointed out that 0.0007% of CHL holders have committed crimes. That's almost indiscreet, you know, that's not even measurable. But they still moved on. So then we made a motion to table the bill. It's all in parliamentary procedures. We suggest we table this bill because it's extremely flawed. We talked about that for 20 minutes and that motion failed. So the next thing we did is there was no fiscal assigned to this bill. So we went over that and made a referral to the Ways and Means Committee to study the fiscal impacts. The fiscal impacts, if you're going to put these in and monitor them in courthouses and public buildings, and you got to put in metal detectors and other things to do it right. And there was no analysis made on what that would cost. So that bill went down. Then I made a motion to send it to the Veterans Committee because a whole lot of veterans have CHLs. And they're going to be, left out of the cold. And so I wanted to have the veterans study the impacts on CHL holders. That went down. Then we recommended to send it to the Rules Committee to deal specifically with the OSP component of it, so we could get speedier license. Then we questioned the carrier for about 45 minutes on their motives and why they're doing it and why they just didn't do it on the disparity. And you could be driving down the street and have a gun-free zone, as they call it, and then you could theoretically be breaking the law. So we talked about how bad that is. And then we talked to the bill. All of us got up and spoke for anywhere from 10 to 25 minutes on how bad this bill is, how impactful it is to Eastern Oregon, and how we think if that was really had some issues, we could fix it. They were not willing to fix it. They were on their motive. So, but let me say, the bill would never have gone away. If we didn't put all of this stuff on the record, it still would have been there. It would have been sitting there. And one thing about this bill is we got removed early on in the process was there's no emergency clause. And what emergency clause does is it comes to effect 91 days after the session's over. That does not allow adequate time for initiative to petition to be filed, the signatures gathered, and to put it to a vote of the people. With no emergency clause, with all of the items that we talked about for 4 hours of all the flaws with the bill, there's ample opportunity and ample case to be made to send that bill to the voters if a group comes up to want to do it. It's got to be led by somebody. It's not going to be cheap, but it can be a grassroots effort to gather signatures and make that bill not a viable. So that's what I did. I felt it was critical to get that on the record. I felt it was critical that we provide the IP, the initiative petition people, the opportunity and some tools they will need to move forward. Because in the bottom line, we weren't stopping the bill. We knew that. I'm not naive enough to think that we were going to change many minds. We did get one Democrat to vote with us. So then you got to make the best of the situation. I've never been one to run from a fight. I don't like this fight. Had it been June 20th, it would have been a much different decision to make. If we'd had a budget and we'd done with stuff and we're just waiting to finish the session, it would have been a much different decision. But March 25th is not the time to say where we're leaving for 4 months. That doesn't serve anyone very well at all. So I know there's people that don't like that. I'm truly sorry because I believe I did the right thing for the citizens of Senate District 30. And some folks don't like it, and I truly apologize, but I did my best shot, and I'm comfortable that we provided ample tools for the initiative petition to be successful and challenged. So, Jerry, you want to do any questions? You just want me to move on to the legislative side of it?
Does anybody have any questions for the senator? So, can you guys hear me? Okay. So basically, what he's saying was, I mean, you may agree or disagree with the strategy, but there was a strategy behind it. That's part of my frustration with the leadership with the Republicans. Where were the other 6 or so senators in there drawing this thing out 8 hours or 12 hours? That's my thing, Senator.
Well, a little help would have been nice. But I'm not going to chastise. People made a decision, and I respect everyone's ability and right to make a decision. So it's not a decision me and 5 of my colleagues made. So, but we can't be the party of no. We have to be the party of choices. And we provided adequate choices and reasons to deal with all of the issues they talked about. The reason they said they passed this bill, we provided adequate reasons to satisfy those if they would have listened. But if they won't listen, the initiative petition process will. And there's absolutely great tools in that process. Go back and look at the 4 hours of that hearing if you got nothing else to do. I suggest a bottle of good whiskey to start with, but go back and listen to that. And I am extremely proud of my colleagues and the process that we did on getting where we got to, because if someone wants to carry an initiative petition, they've got all the tools they need to go forward. And hopefully they will stop shooting at the Republicans, that's a poor term, stop attacking the Republicans, and go after the damn Democrats that wrote the bill. I mean, I did not write this bill. I had nothing to do with the development of this bill, but I'm being hung out to dry when the people that wrote the bill should be accountable for their actions. And I believe we have adequate tools out there to do that.
So we're getting a message from Rebecca Tweed. Your next town hall is going to be April 21st at 5:30 on Zoom. So if you guys have an opportunity, get on those town halls and kind of see what's going on. But we do. The biggest problem that we have is that we are a super minority. If we were a super majority, I'm sure things would be a lot different in Salem. It would probably go our way a lot more of the times than not. So we get back to grassroots efforts, and what do we do starting from this point forward? This is a marathon, not a sprint. We got to start somewhere. We got to put conservative people in the lowest positions all the way to the top. And it's going to take time and effort. But again, it's time to activate. Senator Finley?
Yep, no, absolutely. And your strategy of putting people active in the school boards, the city councils, and all of those venues is the right thing to do. I will tell you, if you look at a map in the three colors that we look at, either red or blue, and the infamous purple is creeping over the top of the mountain and it's coming our way. It's south of you and it is north of you. So, we need to strengthen the redness. We need to be standing for something. And I believe the Republicans can stand for a lot of great things. I mean, no one can argue with our position on life. I mean, that's the bottom line. I mean, that's something you can't even have a discussion about. And, we have to stand on a lot of principles. We stand on smaller government. We stand on more resilience, more people's authority, and less damn taxes. I tell you, I've introduced 3 different tax reduction measures and just about been laughed out of the room, but I'm not going to stop. I mean, I have good science behind it. I bring in the experts and I make my case. Now, someday I will be able to get that case all the way through, but I'm not going to stop because it's the right thing to do. This state does not have a money problem. It has a spending problem. We have adequate revenue to do everything that we do and more than we need to be doing. We just spend too darn much, and we need to curtail that. So I'm absolutely adamant about that. It's a speech that I make very regularly. Every time we have a revenue forecast, we talk about, well, we have a record revenue here, and then I'll turn and say, why do we need to be raising revenue? Because every time they turn around, they're making shots at it. And I've been able to give them a lot of good arguments on, well, it takes a 3/5 majority. They can't get a 3/5 majority right now. So that's the only thing we can hang it on. So become involved, stay active, help us out. Be prepared if there's a bad bill that you don't like, that you're passionate about. Be prepared to provide testimony via Zoom, via written testimony, and help us out. There are over 4,000 bills. I don't get them all read. I have a rule that I don't mess with bills that are in the House, because in the Senate, because until they come out of the House and they become engrossed and they're done being amended, you don't know what the heck you're going to get. I put my name on and really liked bills only to have it amended and be a terrible thing to do. So I don't do that anymore. But as they come out of committees or they're into committees being heard, stay engaged. In my newsletter, I try to give top 10s on what's going on. Representative Bonham does the same thing. And we talk almost every day. We try to develop strategies to move forward on how we can combat some stuff and move forward. It's sometimes it's a little depressing to be there, but It's a job I truly love, and because it's people like you that I can support. And
Hey, Senator
I hope-
Finley, we have a question on Zoom. Says something like, will the kicker kick in the carbon tax alive this session?
Well, the carbon tax is not alive. That's the cap and the trade portion of the cap and trade. They can't trade without the legislature. But the governor has put in her budget, and she's directed all agencies to reduce their carbon, their greenhouse gases and emissions. And we can't stop that. Now, what we can do is when they come out and ODOT says, well, we need another $3 million to add 10 positions for our carbon program, we can say, sorry, not today. I mean, the gas tax is meant for the roads, not for overhead. So that's what the Ways and Means Committee do. We bring those issues up, send it to the Ways and Means, and we still have a fair amount of input in the Ways and Means, and we can add a little common sense. Not as much as I'd like, but we can add some common sense. So we can help stave off some of those, but there is no trade component of it. There are reductions. There's two major programs coming, one in the House right now and one in the Senate. You know, in the House, there's 100% green, so we could be, well, theoretically, they're saying by 2035 we'll be 90% green energy, and by 2040 we'll be 100% green. That's no fossil fuels in our energy source. That's an ambitious goal that I don't think is viable. The first thing that they do is when they come up with those numbers is they don't give us credit for the 6 hydroelectric dams on the Columbia River. And I say, well, whenever they want to have a conversation, I says, we're not going to have this conversation until you include the hydro in the power portfolio. They don't like to do that because when they do that, we're already about 97% green right now. I mean, you can't get greener than a dam on the Columbia River. So we continue to argue with those, but one of the most depressing things right now with all these big legislative packages is there's a clause buried deep in it, most all bills, that talks about the labor component, that all work will be paid, be prevailing wage jobs. And that just adds about 20% to all jobs. Even privately funded power, if you're going to put a solar farm on your back 40, you have to have prevailing wage jobs to put it in, and I'm violently opposed to that. So I'm doing my best to stop that. I think I've got a solution to get that turned. On the Senate side right now, we're working on a recycle program. And while that sounds really great, I think we ought to recycle. Not the way they're building this recycle program. It is, I sent 16 questions this morning to DEQ, trying to get them to explain all the hidden costs that they have within their bill. I believe it's about $100 million per year to run a recycling program. And they said, well, the producers are going to have these costs. And I says, the producers don't have those costs. They pass it on to the consumers. This will all be consumer driven. And I made them finally admit that may be the case. So, and I'm drilling at them pretty hard. So
I got a couple questions from the audience. I'll let turn the mic over here.
Whoop, I'm sorry.
Senator Finley, this is Maurice Langsev.
Hey, Maurice.
I wrote you a letter about the therapeutics for COVID. I wrote you and Daniel Bonham and Mark Owen a letter. I sent it to your email. Anyway, the therapeutics for COVID are so absolutely wonderful. We have 3 or 4 great things that actually really do a great job with COVID. And we don't hear anything about it. All we hear is a vaccine, which is really not even a true vaccine. It is a genetic modifying experiment. Now people are taking these shots and everything. We really don't know really how it's going to respond, but how about putting out some information about therapeutics? I went down to the Indian reservation down here in Warm Springs and talked to them about using ivermectin and giving out ivermectin to everybody, because ivermectin works as a preventative measure and it also works as a treatment measure. Yeah, we don't hear anything about this.
Maurice,
We're locked down.
I have not seen your letter, but I'm going to look for it in the morning. I've not seen that. So
I came out with a plan to actually take care of COVID. I talked to one of the tribal council. Really, I didn't get very far, but which I kind of expected. My question is, let's get some information out there so that we have these treatments.
Okay, well,
And you'll see my letter.
I will find your letter in the morning. I have not seen it, but and I can't tell you why, but I will tell me about when you sent it and I'll find it tomorrow.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I apologize for not getting it.
Have any questions for the senator? You guys got to have, this is part of the process. This is part of what the process should be. We have a representative representing us. If we have something that we would like to ask or a direction that we would like to go, this is a perfect venue to do that. So Kristen, you said you got a question? Okay.
Hi, Mr. Finley.
Hello.
My name's Kristen Case. I'm Secretary of the Jefferson County Republicans. My question was about the walkout or non-walkout for some. Was there discussion beforehand among the Republicans about whether you were going to walk or not?
We talked about it for the week before. Some said, well, we have to walk. Others said we can't walk. There are what we call swing districts. We have 2 senators in swing districts, which means their numbers are either even or upside down. We lost a seat last year, the seat in Salem, because the late Denise Bowles, who was a great senator, walked, and that was the reason she lost. She didn't win election. These swing guys can't walk.
Right.
So that's what they say. So if we're providing quorum, I felt it is critical that we stay and get on the record. Some of my colleagues chose not to do that, and I'm not gonna try to understand their rationale. They felt that it was critical that they walk. We felt it was critical that we stay and fight. So
I'm curious, did Dallas Hurd express his opinion on it beforehand? Being the Oregon Republican Party chair now? I'm interested in what his opinion was before walking.
Dallas Hurd has been protesting this entire session. He's voted no on everything there is. Every committee, every bill on the floor, he's voted no. And he indicated that he was walking. But, I don't know, Dallas Hurd today on a bill to provide fire or protection to the people that had their homes burned in the Santiam Canyon, in the McKenzie River Canyon, and in Medford this last year. We passed a bill that that extended the rebuild times from 1 year to 5 years, to people get permits and they're rebuild. We passed that bill. It was unanimous except for one. Dallas Hurd voted no on that bill. He thinks that he should be voting no on everything, and he's blasting us for not. And I don't think that's a healthy environment. It's his call to do. I'm not bad mouthing him. So
No, I just wanted to see what was happening beforehand. Thank you so
Yep.
much.
you bet.
Anybody else? Got another one for you, Senator.
What seats can be flipped and what can we do to help make that happen so we can get our majority back?
Well, we believe there's a seat in Grants Pass that has strong flipping potential. It was a Republican seat, and Alan DeBoer, who was a Republican senator 2 years ago, chose not to run again, and that turned to Democrat. That seat is very flippable. We believe that Lee Byer, who's not going to run again in the South Eugene area, that seat is very flippable because it's got a lot of rural in it. We believe the Salem seat that Denise Bowles lost, she lost by less than 200 votes, I believe. That seat is very flippable, and it's up for re-election. It's up for election again in 2 years because it was kind of a midterm because it's a replacement for Jackie Walters. So there's 3 seats that we believe are absolutely flippable. And on the same side, we have a couple of seats that we really need to protect. You know, to the north of you guys in Hood River, Chuck Thompson's seat, Chuck's up for reelection. And he's going to have a tough time because that country's turning pretty purple up there. We believe that we can make pretty good inroads with Peter Courtney's seat, north and east of Salem. He's probably not going to run again. So we think if we find good candidates, we have adequate funding, we believe that there are 4 seats that should darn sure be flippable. But we have to protect the ones we have. I mean, we got to keep the other ones in place by not fighting about them. So, but I have a fair amount of hope that we can turn some of those seats.
So Senator, the other part of that question was, what can we do as a county party to help?
Well, become mobilized, get a stronger voting base. I mean, get more people involved, turn some of those darn NAVs that are out there. And there's more NAVs now than the other 2 major parties. Get some of those folks engaged in the process and have them in a vote Republican. We need to expand our base. I mean, when we're going up in these districts with a Democrat advantage, we need to get the more NAVs and we need to bring them into our camp early.
Another question on Zoom, Senator. What about nuclear power? Where are we at with that?
You know, we had a hearing in the Energy Environment Committee. What's today? Last Thursday. And NuScale Energy, it's a company that it's a patent that was developed in Oregon State University. They're building their first prototype in Idaho because there's an Oregon constitutional amendment that says we don't put nuclear in Oregon. Even we had this informational hearing, which is just to talk about how their technology is working. There were about 20 activists there signing in opposition to nuclear energy about how it was such a terrible thing. And there was 0 people in support of the program. You know, there's nothing cleaner than nuclear except for hydro. And the technology is not 40 years old. There's technologies developed at Oregon State University as small scale nuclear. Seemed pretty good to me. Now, I'm not a nuclear scientist and I don't play one on TV, but they made a lot of sense in some of their conversations.
Okay, I've got another question from the audience here.
Senator, what is Congress going to do with OSHA? Are they going to, because we've seen the numbers go down regardless of the vaccine rate. OSHA is causing businesses to close down. We're losing businesses. We have people living in fear. They don't want to be around other people. We have kids that are fearing other kids. We contact OSHA, but we all know OSHA is going to do what OSHA wants to do. So how can we fight this?
Well, the problem is OSHA is a huge issue. Don't get me wrong. The problem is we have a governor that is drunk on emergency authority. She keeps extending emergency declarations. And OSHA in response says, well, we have to make all these rules for emergency declarations for workforce safety, which is, in my belief, bunk. I mean, I think that's an extreme overreach, but based on the governor's executive orders that she keeps extending this emergency declaration, OSHA feels empowered to do so. And I have written several, between 6 and 12 letters to OSHA, challenging them on some of their rulings, challenging them on where they are on such a closed-minded out and some of their procedures. So the first thing we have to do is stop the damn emergency orders and return to some sort of normalcy. We introduced, as Republicans, legislation to limit the governor's authority for emergency orders to 60 days. Obviously, it didn't get a hearing in the committee. So the long-term fix for that is elect more Republicans so we can limit the governor's authority to enact these and give us these crippling regulations.
Thank you, Senator. I'm getting a gentle nudge from Rebecca. I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate your time. I appreciate the engagement with our Jefferson County Republicans. They're cutting me off here.
Well,
But we definitely will be speaking again. I hope to see you in person. I hope to see some of our other representatives in person. This has been great. Thank you very much.
well, let me close by saying what, Jared, thank you. Is first thing is we're going to 5 days a week starting next week. It's actually 4, then it's going to 5. So, but I will Zoom while we're in session. I will Zoom every time you guys have a meeting. I will do my darndest to be there if you let me know. As soon as this darn session's over, I'm coming to town. We'll have a cup of coffee. Maybe we'll have something else to drink. I don't know. But, you know, I would love to visit, meet and greet with all of you. I have special ties to Jefferson County, and I really appreciate what you guys are doing. So please unify and participate in this process.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Okay, so great stuff. This is how the legislative process should work. Again, if you are buying into the vision and my mission of getting involved and activated, as the senator has also reiterated, that's what we have to work with. Representative government, but we have to let our representatives know what we need done. So basically that kind of concludes the meeting. If anybody's got any questions or comments, try to keep it as informative and oh, yes, I almost forgot. If you are so inclined to get up and use that energy that you have on social media and switch it over to one of my committees, the sign-up sheets are up here. If you're super frustrated and you really want to get involved, we could use 31 PCPs. We got 31 PCPs that we need, right? And if you're moderately, interested and whatnot, go out and tell a friend or 2 or 200 that we have a mission and we would like to move forward with our mission. And it would be great to have a lot of effort in Jefferson County so that we can kind of show the rest of the state how Republican Party should be. So unless you guys have any questions, a comment. The price of liberty is eternal vigilance. Sue Rahi. Thomas Jefferson said that. Oh, I guess, I'm sorry. I thought that was you that quoted that. Any other comments, questions of me, questions for the party? Again, I really appreciate you guys coming out. Great turnout. If you got anything from it, thank your servers. They did a great job, I think. Any complaints out there? No? Okay. All right. Again, thank you guys. Had fun.